The battle had ended, but Admiral Catherine Brooks was not finished. The human fleet maintained its position around Krev Prime, weapons still hot, ready to resume fighting at any moment. The children were safe aboard the sanctuary, being cared for by the best doctors and counselors the Defense Force had. But Catherine wanted to make sure this would never happen again. She opened a channel to the Kreven High Command. The screen showed a council chamber where 7 high-ranking Kreven officials sat. They looked shocked, their scales showing colors that Catherine's cultural officer had identified as fear and shame. "I am Admiral Catherine Brooks. You took our children. We have taken them back. Now we are going to discuss terms." "Admiral," the lead counselor began, "we deeply regret this incident." General Vorak exceeded his authority. "We had no knowledge of—" "I do not care about your internal politics," Catherine interrupted. "Here is what is going to happen. First, you will pay reparations to each family whose child was taken. Second, you will formally declare that human children are completely off-limits under any circumstances, war or peace. This declaration will be filed with the Galactic Council and backed by treaty. Third, you will surrender General Vorak and every officer involved in the abduction for trial under human law." "Admiral, surely we can negotiate more reasonable." "I am not negotiating. I am telling you what will happen. There is a fourth term. The Kreven Empire will accept human observers at all military installations for the next 50 years. They will report on any activities that might threaten human civilians, especially children." The counselors spoke rapidly among themselves in their own language. Catherine waited patiently. She had time. Her fleet had enough supplies to stay here for months if necessary. "Admiral, these terms are harsh," the lead counselor finally said. "The Kreven people will see this as a humiliation." "The Kreven people should have thought about that before taking our children," Catherine replied. "You have 1 hour to accept these terms. If you refuse, we will enforce them by other means. Your orbital stations, your shipyards, your military infrastructure will cease to exist. You will be left defenseless in a dangerous galaxy. The choice is yours." She closed the channel and turned to her staff. "Deploy observation drones around every Kreven military facility in this system. I want complete surveillance. If they try to move weapons or ships, I want to know immediately." "Admiral, do you think they will accept?" her tactical officer asked. "They will accept," Catherine said confidently. "They have seen what we will do to protect our children. They know we mean every word." On Krev Prime, General Vorak sat in a holding cell. His command had been stripped from him. His military honors had been revoked. He was no longer a general of the Kreven Empire. He was a criminal waiting to face justice. Tekris came to visit him. The young officer looked tired and sad. "The High Command has accepted the human terms," Tekris said quietly. "They had no choice. You are to be transferred to human custody for trial." Vorak nodded slowly. He had expected this. "What will happen to the Empire?" "We will survive. But we will never forget this lesson. The humans have proven themselves formidable, not because of their weapons or their ships, but because of what they fight for. We fight for territory and glory. They fight for their children. There is no defeating that kind of motivation. I underestimated them," Vorak said. "I thought their young were like ours, common and replaceable. I was wrong about everything." Tekris left, and Vorak was alone with his thoughts. He had been a warrior for 60 years. He had fought in dozens of battles and commanded thousands of soldiers. But he had never faced an enemy like humanity. An enemy that would sacrifice everything, risk everything, lose everything, just to save their young. It was terrifying and strangely beautiful at the same time. Aboard the sanctuary, the children were slowly recovering. The doctors had confirmed that none of them had been seriously harmed. The Krevens had kept them in adequate conditions, probably planning to use them for labor once they reached their destination. But the psychological trauma was real. Sophie sat with a counselor named Dr. Patricia Hayes talking about her experience. "I kept telling the younger ones that help would come," Sophie said. "I had to believe it was true. But I was scared. What if nobody came? What if we were too far away?" "But they did come," Patricia said gently. "Your faith was not misplaced. Do you know why they came so fast?" "Because we are humans?" Sophie asked. "Because you are children," Patricia corrected. "Human adults, all of us, we have an understanding. The most important thing in our entire civilization is keeping our children safe. More important than money, more important than politics, more important than anything else. When you were taken, every human in the galaxy felt it, And every human wanted to help bring you home. Sophie thought about that. The alien who took us, he did not understand that, did he? No, he did not. His species sees children differently, but he understands now. Kyle was reunited with his father in a private room. Jake held his son and could not stop crying. I am sorry, Jake kept saying. I am so sorry I was not there to protect you. Dad, you came for me, Kyle said. You brought the whole fleet. That is pretty good protection. Jake laughed through his tears. I would have brought 1,000 fleets if that was what it took. They sat together for a long time, just being close. Jake told his son about the battle, about how every ship in the fleet fought to reach them, about how human soldiers volunteered for the most dangerous positions because they wanted to save the children, about how the whole human civilization united with one purpose. Are the aliens going to try to take more kids? Kyle asked quietly. No, Jake said firmly. They will never do this again. We have made sure of that. And if anyone ever tries, they will face the same response. We protect our children. Always. The human fleet began its journey home 3 days later. The sanctuary led the way, carrying its precious cargo of 23 children. Behind it came the warships, battered but victorious. They had lost 6 ships and over 400 crew members in the battle. But they had achieved their mission. General Vorak was transferred to a human prison ship. He would be tried for kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and endangering children. The trial would be public, broadcast across human space. The Crevan Empire would watch one of their generals answer for his crimes. The Galactic Council held an emergency session to discuss the incident. Ambassador Richard Hayes presented a report on human culture and child-rearing practices. He wanted to make sure every species in the galaxy understood. Humans invest approximately 18 years in raising each child to adulthood, Richard explained. During that time, the child is completely dependent on adult care. This long dependency period has created powerful protective instincts in our species. But it is more than instinct. It is culture, it is law. It is our deepest held value. Human children are not just the offspring of individual parents. They are the treasure of our entire civilization. He paused and looked around the chamber. What happened at Krev Prime was not an overreaction. It was not unusual. It was the entirely predictable response of a species that values its children above everything else. Any species that threatens human children will face the same response. This is not a warning. This is simply information you need to understand about humanity. The Council updated its databases. Next to the entry for humanity, they added detailed notes about human protective behavior regarding offspring. The warning was clear. Under no circumstances should any species threaten, harm, or take human children. Word spread throughout the galaxy. Traders talked about it in spaceports. Diplomats discussed it in embassies. Military commanders studied it in war colleges. The lesson was simple. Humanity was willing to go to war over their children, and when they did, they fought with terrifying effectiveness. On Haven's Rest, the colony welcomed its children home with celebration and tears. The entire settlement gathered at the landing field. Families were reunited. Parents who had spent days in agonizing fear finally held their children again. Sophie's mother hugged her daughter and would not let go. I knew they would find you, she whispered. I knew the fleet would bring you home. I knew too, Mom, Sophie said. I never stopped believing. That night there was a gathering in the settlement's main hall. Admiral Catherine Brooks had come down to the surface to see the children and their families. She stood at the front of the hall looking at the faces before her. I want you all to know something, Catherine said. What happened here was not just a military operation. It was a promise that humanity makes to every child. We will always come for you. We will always protect you. No matter where you are, no matter how far away, no matter what stands in our way, we will find you and bring you home. She paused and looked directly at the children. You are our future. You are what makes everything else worthwhile. Every ship we build, every treaty we sign, every colony we establish, it is all for you. So that you can grow up safe and free and happy. Sophie stood up. Admiral Brooks, what happened to the alien who took us? He will face trial for his crimes, Catherine said. He will answer for what he did. But more importantly, he has taught his entire empire a lesson they will never forget. They know now that human children are off limits. They will make sure. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Krev Prime system, exactly 47 hours after the abduction. Admiral Catherine Brooks stood on the bridge of her flagship, the heavy cruiser defiant, and looked at the tactical display. Krev Prime hung in space like a fortress. The station was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest human space station. Around it orbited 38 Krevan warships, their weapons powered and ready. The station itself bristled with defensive cannons and missile ports. Impressive, Catherine's tactical officer said quietly. Irrelevant, Catherine replied. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Brooks. Our mission is simple. There are 23 children on that station. We are going to get them back. Every decision we make, every shot we fire, every maneuver we execute will be focused on that single goal. Their safety is the only priority. Everything else is secondary. Is that clear? 47 captains responded in unison. Crystal clear, Admiral. Catherine switched to a wideband transmission that she knew the Krevans would receive. This is Admiral Catherine Brooks of the United Earth Defense Force. We are here for our children. Stand down your weapons and allow us to dock, or we will come through you. On Krev Prime, General Vorak listened to the transmission. His claws tightened on the armrests of his command chair. He had hoped somehow that the humans would see reason, that they would negotiate, that they would back down when faced with superior numbers and fortifications. He had been wrong. All ships battle formation, Vorak ordered. Activate station defenses. We hold this position. The Kraven fleet moved to intercept the human vessels. The station's weapons came online, targeting systems locking onto the approaching ships. Admiral, they are powering weapons, the tactical officer reported. Catherine nodded. All ships execute Plan Alpha. Remember, our goal is the station. Don't get drawn into prolonged engagements with their fleet. We punch through, we get our people, and we leave. But Catherine had a secret weapon. While the main fleet had been approaching openly, drawing all attention, Lieutenant Amy Chen and her special operations team had entered the system hours ago in a stealth ship. They were already attached to Krev Prime's outer hull, cutting through the armor plating. The battle began with sudden violence. The Krevan fleet opened fire first, sending waves of plasma bolts toward the human ships. The human vessels scattered, their formation breaking into smaller groups that darted between the enemy vessels with startling speed. The Relentless, with Captain Jake Morrison at the helm, led a group of destroyers straight into the center of the Krevan line. Jake's entire focus was on the station where his son was held. Nothing else mattered. All weapons fire at will, Jake ordered. Target their engines and weapons. I want a clear path to that station. The Relentless lived up to its name. Its guns blazed continuously, raking across Krevan hulls. An enemy cruiser tried to block their path, and Jake simply rammed it, his reinforced bow smashing through the alien ship's bridge. The Relentless emerged on the other side, damaged but functional. Captain, we have breaches on decks 4 and 5, his first officer reported. Seal them and keep moving, Jake said. Nothing stops us. Catherine watched the battle unfold from her command center. The Kravens fought well, but they were fighting for pride and orders. The humans were fighting for their children. There was no comparison in motivation. A Krevan battleship, larger than any human vessel, moved to block the approach to the station. It was a fortress in space, armored and armed beyond anything the humans had encountered before. Admiral, that battleship is between us and the station, the tactical officer said. It will take significant time to disable it, and casualties will be heavy. Catherine looked at the display for only a moment. Then she opened a channel to the ship closest to the battleship, a heavy cruiser called the Guardian. Captain Lewis, I need a hole in that battleship. Understood, Admiral. The Guardian turned toward the battleship and accelerated to ramming speed. Its crew evacuated to escape pods even as the ship continued forward under automated control. The Krevan battleship fired everything it had, tearing chunks from the Guardian's hull. But the human ship did not slow down. The impact was catastrophic. The Guardian punched through the battleship's armor and exploded inside it. Both ships were destroyed in a fireball that lit up the entire battlefield. But the path to the station was now clear. All ships punch through, now, Catherine ordered. The human fleet surged forward, pouring through the gap. The Krevan ships tried to pursue, but human destroyers turned and engaged them, sacrificing themselves to buy time for the others to reach the station. Inside Krev Prime, Lieutenant Amy Chen and her team had made it through the hull and into the station's maintenance corridors. They moved like ghosts, their suits designed to avoid detection. Amy had memorized the station's layout from intelligence reports. She knew exactly where the children would be held. Team 2, you have the control center, Amy whispered into her comm. Team 3, secure our extraction route. Team 1, with me. We are going to get those kids. They encountered the first guards at a junction near the holding cells. The Crevens never saw them. Silenced weapons dropped the aliens before they could raise an alarm. Amy's team moved over the bodies without hesitation. In the holding area, Sophie heard a strange sound. A soft click, then another. The door to their cell suddenly slid open. She grabbed Kyle's arm, terrified this was some kind of trick. A figure appeared in the doorway, human-sized and wearing black armor. The helmet retracted, revealing a woman's face. Lieutenant Amy Chen smiled at them. Hey kids, we are here to take you home. For a moment, nobody moved. Then little Lucy started crying and ran toward Amy. The lieutenant caught her and held her close. It's okay. You are safe now. We've got you. The other children rushed forward. Sophie felt tears streaming down her face as a soldier gently checked her for injuries. Kyle stood straighter, trying to be brave even though his hands were shaking. Is my dad here? Kyle asked. Captain Morrison is with the fleet outside, Amy told him. He is very eager to see you. More soldiers entered, forming a protective circle around the children. We need to move fast, Amy said. Stay close to us. Do exactly what we say. We are going to get you off this station. They moved through the corridors, the soldiers surrounding the children completely. When Craven guards appeared ahead, the humans engaged them with overwhelming force. There was no hesitation, no mercy for anyone who stood between them and the children. Outside, the battle raged. The human fleet was taking heavy casualties, but they were succeeding. The Craven formation had collapsed. Ships burned in space. The station's defensive weapons had been systematically destroyed by targeted strikes. General Vorak watched from the station's command center as his defensive line crumbled. These humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They were not better warriors individually. Their ships were not superior in technology. But their coordination, their willingness to sacrifice, their absolute refusal to stop was overwhelming. An explosion rocked the station. The humans had breached the outer defenses. Vorak knew it was over. Order all ships to stand down, he said quietly. Open the docking bays. Let them come. General, we can still fight, an officer protested. No, Vorak said. We cannot win this. If we continue fighting, they will tear this station apart with the children still inside. I will not be responsible for that. Amy's team reached the evacuation point, a docking bay where a human assault ship waited. The children were rushed aboard, still surrounded by soldiers. The pilot had the engines running before the last child was through the airlock. All teams extraction successful, Amy reported. We have all 23. I repeat, all children recovered and secure. Across the fleet, a cheer went up. Catherine Brooks closed her eyes for a moment, relief washing over her. They had done it. The children were safe. Admiral, the Crevens are standing down, her tactical officer reported. General Vorak is requesting a ceasefire. Granted, Catherine said. All ships cease fire. Maintain defensive positions, but do not engage unless fired upon. The assault ship carrying the children docked with the medical vessel Sanctuary. Doctors and counselors were waiting. The children were examined quickly but thoroughly. Scared, traumatized, but alive and physically unharmed. Captain Jake Morrison was waiting in the docking bay when Kyle walked off the assault ship. Father and son stared at each other for a heartbeat. Then Kyle ran into his father's arms, and Jake held his son like he would never let go. All across the sanctuary, similar scenes played out. Sophie was reunited with her mother, who had come with the fleet. Lucy was wrapped in a blanket by a kind doctor who promised her ice cream once they made sure she was okay. The battle was over. The children were safe. And the Crevan Empire had learned a lesson they would never forget. General Vorak was reviewing supply reports when Tekris burst onto the bridge. The young officer was breathing hard, his scales showing the pale color of fear. General, we have a problem. A serious problem. Vorak looked up from his display, annoyed at the interruption. Explain yourself, officer. The humans, sir. They are coming. Our intelligence network reports massive fleet movements. They are mobilizing everything they have and heading toward our territory. How many ships? Vorak asked, only mildly interested. Human military capability was not impressive by Cravan standards. Current count is 47 warships, General. but more are joining every hour. And, sir, they are not slowing down or requesting diplomatic channels. They are coming straight for us. Vorak frowned. This was unusual. Over the collection operation? Surely they will want to negotiate terms first. That is standard procedure. Sir, they have issued an ultimatum. The Galactic Council tried to mediate, but the human ambassador refused. He said we have 48 hours to return the subjects or face total war. Total war? Vorak laughed, though something about Tekris's expression made him uncomfortable. Over 23 subjects? That is absurd. They must be posturing. General, I do not believe they are posturing. I have been reviewing human cultural files, and I think we may have made a serious error. Show me these files, Vorak ordered. What he saw in the next hour changed everything. The first file was a historical record from a human colony called New Portland. The colony had been attacked by a hostile alien species. The humans, vastly outnumbered, had organized a complete evacuation of every child on the planet. They loaded them into transports and sent them away. Then the remaining adults, every single one, stayed behind to buy time. They fought to the last person. Not one adult survived, but every child made it to safety. The humans considered this a victory. Vorak stared at the report. They sacrificed an entire colony for their young? Yes, sir, and there are more examples. The next file showed a human warship that had been damaged in battle. The captain had ordered all children aboard evacuated first, even before injured adults. The ship's crew had worked together to save 43 children while the vessel was breaking apart around them. 18 crew members died ensuring those children escaped. Another file detailed human legal codes. Harming a child was considered the worst possible crime in human society, worse than murder of adults. The punishments were severe. Human prisoners who hurt children were often killed by other prisoners, even though humans generally oppose death penalties. They value their offspring above everything else, Tekris explained quietly. It is not just parents protecting their own young. Human adults will protect any human child, even strangers. It is built into their culture at the deepest level. Vorak felt cold spreading through his body. Are you telling me that we have given humanity a reason for total war? Yes, General. That is exactly what I am saying. More files appeared on the screen. A human mother who fought off 3 attackers to save her child. A human father who walked through fire to reach his daughter. Stories of teachers protecting students with their own bodies. Of strangers risking their lives to save children they did not know. One particular file caught Vorak's attention. It was a statement from a human military leader, recorded decades ago during a minor conflict. You can take our ships, you can take our territory, you can take our resources, but if you touch our children, we will burn your civilization to ashes and scatter those ashes to the void. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Why do they care so much? Vorak asked, though he was beginning to understand. Human young require extensive care for many years before they can survive independently, Tekris explained. Much longer than most species. This long dependency period created strong protective instincts, but it goes beyond instinct. Humans see their children as the future of their species. Protecting the young is not just about individual offspring. It is about protecting everything they are and everything they hope to become. Vorak stood and walked to the viewing screen showing the holding area where the human children were kept. They were huddled together, the older ones comforting the younger ones. That girl, Sophie, was telling stories to keep them calm. The boy, Kyle, was studying the guards and the room layout. They were so small, so fragile, and every human in the galaxy was willing to die to get them back. We need to contact the High Command immediately, Vorak said. We need to return these subjects before General, incoming message from human forces. The communication screen activated. Admiral Catherine Brooks appeared, her face carved from stone. Behind her, Vorak could see a ship's bridge, red alert lights flashing. General Vorak of the Kreven Empire, Catherine said, her voice absolutely level. You have something that belongs to us. We are coming to get it back. Admiral, I am prepared, To negotiate the return of the subjects, Vorak began. There is no negotiation, General. We are not asking for permission. We are not offering terms. We are telling you what is going to happen. You will ensure those children are safe and unharmed. You will not move them. You will not separate them. You will wait for us to arrive. Admiral, surely we can arrange a peaceful transfer. Your compliance is optional, General. We are coming for our children whether you cooperate or not. The only question is how many Krevans die in the process. That is your choice to make. The communication ended. Vorak stood in silence for a long moment. Then he began issuing orders rapidly. Set course for Krev Prime, maximum speed. Send word to the High Command. I want every available warship diverted to our position. General, are we preparing to fight them? An officer asked. We are preparing to survive them, Vorak corrected. Krev Prime has the strongest defenses in the Empire. If they want these children, they will have to go through the full might of our military. Sir, do you really think they will attack Krev Prime? The diplomatic consequences? They do not care about consequences, Vorak said quietly. They do not care about diplomatic relations or trade agreements or galactic politics. They care about getting their children back. We could offer them half the Empire, and they would refuse if it meant leaving those young ones in our custody. The Dreadclaw's engines roared to life, pushing the ship toward the heavily fortified station of Krev Prime. Behind them, more Krevan warships fell into formation. 38 ships in total, the largest battle group the Krevan Empire could assemble on short notice. Vorak sent a message to Krevan High Command, explaining the situation and requesting permission to return the human subjects immediately. The response was firm. The Krevan Empire did not bow to threats. They would defend Krev Prime and teach these upstart humans a lesson about respecting superior powers. Vorak read the message and felt sick. The High Command did not understand. They had not seen what he had seen in those files. They did not comprehend what was coming. In the holding area, Sophie noticed the increase in ship activity. The guards seemed nervous, checking their weapons more frequently. Something was happening. Kyle, she whispered, do you think help is coming? Kyle had been counting guard rotations and mapping out the ship's sounds. He looked at her with confidence he barely felt. My dad's a captain in the Defense Force. If anyone can find us, he can. But we're so far from home, little Lucy said, her eyes wet with tears. It doesn't matter how far, Kyle said firmly. They'll come. That's what humans do. We don't leave our people behind. In his command chair, Vorak heard the child's words through the monitoring system. Such certainty, such faith. And the terrible truth was, the boy was right. The humans were coming, and nothing was going to stop them. Vorak had made many mistakes in his long military career. He had lost battles, made poor tactical decisions, and angered his superiors. But this was different. This was not a mistake that could be corrected with a better strategy or a clever maneuver. He had taken human children, and now he was going to face something he had never encountered before. An enemy that fought not for territory or resources or pride, but for something far more dangerous. An enemy that fought for love. The countdown continued. The human fleet was coming, and Vorak could only wait and hope that his defenses would be enough. The message reached Earth Defense Command at 0847 hours. 23 children abducted from Haven's Rest. Unknown alien vessel. No survivors among the adult witnesses. Only unconscious teachers who woke to find their students gone. Admiral Catherine Brooks was in a strategy meeting when her aide interrupted. The young lieutenant's face was pale as he handed her the datapad. Catherine read it once, then read it again to make sure she understood correctly. When did this happen? She asked, her voice dangerously quiet. 4 hours ago, Admiral. The colony reported it immediately, but the distance— I know how long signals take, Lieutenant. Catherine stood up. The other officers in the meeting looked at her, sensing something was very wrong. Gentlemen, we will have to continue this discussion later. I have an urgent matter to attend to. She walked quickly to the command center, her mind already calculating distances, ship positions, and response times. Behind her, the other officers scrambled to find out what had happened. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as the news spread. Every screen began showing the data from Haven's Rest, images of the empty school, medical reports on the unconscious teachers, lists of the missing children complete with photos and ages. Catherine looked at those faces. Sophie Blake, 10 years old, loved science. Kyle Morrison, 12, wanted to be an engineer. Lucy Chen, just 6 years old, afraid of the dark. 23 children, 23 families destroyed by fear and grief. Get me every ship within 10 jumps of Craven space, Catherine ordered. I don't care if they're on patrol, in maintenance, or scheduled for retirement. I want them ready to move in 1 hour. Admiral, the Cravens haven't officially claimed responsibility, an officer pointed out carefully. Catherine turned to look at him. Her expression made him step back. The scan data shows a ship consistent with Craven design. The extraction method matches their documented procedures. They took our children, Commander. We're going to get them back. Across human space, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Captain Jake Morrison was aboard the destroyer Relentless, conducting a routine patrol near the mining colonies, when he received the emergency transmission. He opened it expecting another smuggling report or boundary dispute. His son's face looked back at him from the list of abducted children. For a long moment, Jake could not breathe. Kyle, his boy, taken by aliens to some unknown place, probably terrified, definitely in danger. Jake's wife had died when Kyle was 5. For 7 years it had been just the two of them. Kyle was everything to him, Captain. His first officer, Lieutenant Paul Grant, touched his shoulder gently. Sir, are you— Set course for the rendezvous point, Jake said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Maximum speed. Notify the crew. Anyone who wants to transfer off before we join the rescue fleet has 30 minutes to do so. Sir, nobody's going to— I know, Paul, but I have to offer. Jake stood and addressed the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. You have all seen the news by now. One of the children taken from Haven's Rest is my son. We have been ordered to join a rescue fleet. This mission will likely involve combat with a superior force in hostile territory. Anyone who wishes to transfer to another vessel may do so without any mark against their record. You have 30 minutes to decide. Not a single crew member requested transfer. Several sent messages to the bridge volunteering for any dangerous assignments. Jake had to pause for a moment, overwhelmed by their loyalty. At the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Richard Hayes received an urgent summons from the Council leadership. The Council chambers were vast, designed to accommodate dozens of different species. The Craven representative, an older female named Shira, stood waiting with several other ambassadors. Ambassador Hayes, the Council chairman said, a floating gas-based entity that communicated through translation devices. We have heard reports of an incident involving a human colony and a Craven vessel. We wish to mediate this situation before it escalates. There is nothing to mediate, Richard said calmly. The Craven Empire has abducted 23 human children. They will return those children within 48 hours, alive and unharmed, or there will be no Craven Empire left to negotiate with. The chamber fell silent. Several ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. Shira's scales flushed a darker color, a sign of agitation among Cravens. Ambassador, surely you cannot mean— The chairman began. I mean exactly what I said. 48 hours. After that, we will consider it an act of war, and we will respond accordingly. The Council cannot support such aggressive— The Council's support is not required, Richard interrupted. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. Return our children or face the consequences. He left the chamber before they could respond. Behind him, the ambassadors began arguing among themselves. Several of them accessed their databases on human psychology and culture. What they found made them deeply uneasy. Lieutenant Amy Chen sat in the briefing room with her special operations team. They had been pulled from a training exercise and told to prepare for immediate deployment. Now their commanding officer was explaining the mission. Simple objective, Colonel Frank Martinez said. There are 23 children being held somewhere in Craven space. We are going to find them and bring them home. This is not a hostage negotiation. This is not a diplomatic mission. This is a rescue operation, and the only thing that matters is getting those kids out alive. Do we know where they're being held? Amy asked. Intelligence is working on it. We have identified the ship that took them. The Dreadclaw, commanded by General Vorak. We believe they are heading to a major Craven station for processing. We will intercept them before they can distribute the children to different locations. What about resistance? Another team member asked. Expect heavy resistance. The Kravens won't give them up easily. They don't understand why we care so much about children. In their culture, offspring have to prove themselves before they're valued. They think this is about pride or politics. Frank paused. They're wrong. This is about family. This is about protecting our children. We go in hard, we go in fast, and we don't stop until every single kid is safe. The team nodded. Several had children of their own. They understood what was at stake. Across human civilization, the reaction was volcanic. News channels broadcast the story continuously. The faces of the missing children appeared on every screen. Parents held their own children closer. Schools increased security, but mostly people were angry. Human governments that usually argued about every decision united instantly. Resources poured toward the military. Ships that had been scheduled for decommissioning were rushed back into service. Weapons were loaded. Troops were mobilized. The Galactic Council watched in amazement. They had studied hundreds of spacefaring species, but they had never seen anything like this. An entire civilization. Billions of individuals all focused on a single goal with absolute unity. They are serious. One ambassador said quietly. They will actually go to war over this. It is only 23 individuals, another responded. Surely they will accept compensation or negotiate terms. An elderly ambassador who had studied Earth history spoke up. You do not understand humans. They are one of the few species that invests everything in their young. A human parent will fight impossible odds to save their child. A human soldier will sacrifice themselves to protect children they have never met. This is not about politics or territory. This is about something much deeper. What could be deeper than survival of the species? Someone asked. To humans, protecting their children is survival of the species. They see it as the same thing. Back on Earth, Catherine Brooks stood before a holographic display showing the growing fleet. 47 warships and more joining every hour. It was the largest human military force ever assembled. Her aide approached carefully. Admiral, the President is asking if we really intend to engage the Krevan Empire over this incident. Tell the President that I will go through every Krevan in the galaxy. If that is what it takes to bring those children home, Catherine said. We are not negotiating. We are not posturing. We are going to get our kids back, and nothing is going to stop us. The aide swallowed hard and went to deliver the message. The fleet began moving, a river of warships flowing toward Krevan space. Aboard each vessel, the crews prepared for battle. They checked weapons, ran simulations, and studied what little was known about Krevan military tactics. But mostly, they looked at the pictures of 23 children and remembered why they were going to fight. The Dreadclaw moved through space like a silent predator. Its dark metal hull reflected nothing, designed to blend into the emptiness between stars. Inside the massive ship, General Vorak stood on the command bridge, his yellow eyes scanning the displays before him. His scales, a deep purple that marked him as high-ranking among the Krevan people, caught the dim light of the control panels. Report, Vorak said, his voice a low rumble. A younger officer, Tekris, turned from his station. We are approaching the human colony, General. The planet they call Haven's Rest. Our scans show a small settlement. Population approximately 2,000. Defensive capabilities are minimal. Vorak nodded slowly. This was routine work for the Krevan Empire. They had been exploring this region of space for months, cataloging the various species and their territories. The humans were relatively new to interstellar travel, having only achieved faster-than-light capability within the last century. To the ancient Krevan Empire, they were children playing at being adults. Any military presence? Vorak asked. None detected, General. There appears to be a small security force, but they are equipped only for local peacekeeping. No orbital defenses, no warships in the system. It was perfect. The Krevan Empire needed workers for their mining operations in the outer territories. These humans would serve adequately. They were physically weaker than Kravens, but could operate in environments that other species found challenging. Prepare the extraction teams, Vorak ordered. Standard protocol. We take the ones who will adapt best to labor. Avoid unnecessary violence. The Galactic Council frowns upon excessive force against developing species. The extraction teams assembled in the hangar bay, 20 Krevan soldiers, each standing over 7 feet tall, their reptilian features hidden behind smooth helmets. They carried stun weapons designed to incapacitate without killing. The Crevan Empire had refined this process over centuries. Take the subjects quickly, leave minimal evidence, and vanish before any significant response could be organized. The settlement on Haven's Rest was quiet that morning. The planet was covered in vast fields of grain and vegetables. The humans had chosen this world for its perfect growing conditions. Most of the adult population worked in the fields or in the processing facilities. The children attended school in a large building at the center of the settlement. Sophie Blake sat in her classroom, listening to her teacher explain mathematics. She was 10 years old, with brown hair tied back in a ponytail. She enjoyed school, especially science. She wanted to be a botanist like her mother someday, helping to develop new crops for the colony. Next to her sat Kyle Morrison, a 12-year-old boy with sandy hair and sharp eyes. He was reading ahead in his textbook, already bored with the current lesson. Kyle had a gift for understanding systems and patterns. His father always said he would make an excellent engineer. The younger children, ages 6 to 8, were in the room next door. Their teacher was reading them a story about Earth, the human homeworld that most of them had never seen. The extraction happened fast. The Crevan soldiers materialized outside the school using short-range teleportation technology. They moved through the doors before anyone could react. The teachers tried to protect their students, but the stun weapons dropped them in seconds. The children screamed and tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Sophie grabbed the hand of a 6-year-old girl named Lucy and pulled her under a desk. "Stay quiet," she whispered, her heart pounding. But the Crevans had thermal scanners. They pulled the children out one by one, their large clawed hands surprisingly gentle. They had done this many times before. Damage to the merchandise reduced its value. Kyle struggled as a soldier lifted him. "Let us go." "You can't do this." The soldier said nothing. They had been ordered not to communicate with the subjects. Within 5 minutes, 23 children were gathered in the school's main hall. The youngest was 6-year-old Lucy. The oldest was 14-year-old Danny Carter, who had tried to fight back and now had a bruise forming on his cheek where he had been pushed to the floor. Sophie counted the children quickly. All from her class and the younger group. She felt sick with fear but forced herself to stay calm. The younger ones were crying, looking to the older children for guidance. "It's going to be okay," Sophie said, though she did not believe it herself. "Just stay together." A bright light surrounded them, and suddenly they were no longer in the school. They materialized in a cold metal room aboard the Dreadclaw. The children huddled together, shivering from cold and terror. General Vorak reviewed the extraction report with mild satisfaction. The operation had taken less than 10 minutes. The humans would not even know what happened until the security forces investigated the empty school. By then, the Dreadclaw would be far from Haven's Rest. "General," Tekris said hesitantly, "there is something unusual about the subjects we collected." "What is it?" Vorak asked, not really interested. "They are all young. Very young. The oldest appears to be barely into adolescence by human standards." Vorak walked to the holding area and looked through the viewing panel. He saw the human children pressed together, their small faces wet with tears. For a moment he felt something unusual. Among the Crevans, young ones were common and held little value until they proved themselves worthy through combat and achievement. "These human young look so fragile." "It matters not," Vorak said, pushing away the strange feeling. "Young or old, they will serve their purpose. Perhaps younger ones will adapt more easily to their new roles." "Should we inform the High Command?" Tekris asked. "Why would we? This is a routine collection. Process them as usual. Separate them into groups based on size and apparent strength. Begin the adaptation protocols tomorrow." In the holding area, Kyle was examining every detail of the room. The walls, the door, the ventilation system. He memorized the sound of the guards walking past, the rhythm of the ship's engines vibrating through the floor. Sophie kept the younger children calm by telling them stories. She promised them their parents would come. She promised them they would go home. She had to believe it was true. The Dreadclaw's engines engaged, pulling the ship away from human space, deeper into the territory controlled by the Crevan Empire. On Haven's Rest, the first security officer arrived at the school to find the teachers unconscious and every child gone. His emergency call went out immediately. Within minutes, the entire colony knew. Within an hour, the message reached the nearest human military outpost. Within 3 hours, it reached Earth. General Vorak did not know it yet, but he had just started a countdown. The clock was ticking. And when it reached zero, he would face a force unlike anything the Crevan Empire had ever encountered. He had taken human children, and humanity was coming to get them back.